मुझे सेटिंग कभी आएंगे पर
Okay, let us start. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame bante buri panya tata kata kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame dhamma sanditika akalika kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame sangha supatipana anuttara sa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tisarana gamanang paripunang panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Abrahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Nacha Gita Vadita Visuka Dasana Malaganda Vilepana Dharana Mandana Vibhusanatthana Veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Uchasayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Idang me silang Magapala Jnanasa Pachayo Hotu Appamadena Sampadeta Sa. Come, let us do some guided on the 32 parts of the body. Okay, let us all relax here. All the tension, all the tiredness, fatigue, we let it all go. And keeping the mind calm and peaceful, present, all the thinking, all the planning, memories, we let it all, put it all aside. Relax on top of the head, down to the forehead and face, down to the neck and shoulders, arms, chest area, stomach area, to the back and spine, to the buttock and hips, to the thighs, knees, calves, ankles, soles, toes. So relax the body, keeping the mind calm, fresh, and clear. Head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin. 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 That is all. Tonight we'll do the nails, teeth, and skin. So nails, 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 nails. Let us all recall the fingernails or the toenails. If the fingernails is at the end of the finger, shaped like a wedge, color slightly pinkish, slightly yellowish. End of the toes, big toes or small toes, different sizes of nails on the body. So imagine its color, its location, its place. Now let us look into its foulness connecting to the nails. Let us recall or imagine that our nails, we trim our nails, and all the nails becomes on the floor, or on the table. Let us reflect on it, and all these nails, after disconnected from the body, they are no more beautiful. They are no more mine. They're not something to be attached to, not something for us to see them as beautiful. Indeed, the mind shunned away from them, seeing them as repulsive, as foul. Imagine here again that all our nails are being removed from the fingers or from the toes. We lay it all down on the table. However we lay down, all these nails are no more beautiful, no more exciting, no more pleasant. In fact, they are foul. They're repulsive, and so on. So nails, 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 nails. Now let us go to the next one. Teeth, 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 teeth. Teeth, teeth, teeth. Now let us all recall the location, the shape, color of the teeth. And the upper jaws inside the mouth or the lower jaws inside the mouth. Different types of teeth, molar, premolar, the front teeth. Imagine its color, slightly yellowish, whitish. As we recall the images in front of us, then we begin to look into repulsive nature of the teeth. Imagine the teeth is not clean, we leave it in its natural condition. It will surely becomes more dirtier, it becomes smelly due to the growth of bacteria, germs. No matter how beautiful the teeth is, we will see these teeth as something unpleasant, foul, and do not want to be close to it. Now imagine that we are in the dentist, having our tooth extracted. We look at its shape, its color, its roots, two-rooted, three-rooted. Then all these teeth is no more beautiful. Perhaps inside the dentist, we may see other people's tooth or teeth. And all these teeth and tooth no more beautiful. In fact, we do not want to touch them. We do not want to be close to them. So they are repulsive. They are foul. And not something for us to attach to. Teeth, teeth, teeth. Go on to the next one. Skin. Skin, skin, skin. Skin, skin, skin. Again, here the same thing. We recall the nature of the skin or the position of the skin, location, color, shape. The whole body is enwrapped by the skin, from top of the head all the way down to the toes, by a thin layer, a few cells thick, very thin, and we imagine its color, slightly darker, slightly lighter, its roughness, its softness, its smoothness. Now let us imagine that we can able to unwrap the skin from the flesh, as if like we unwrap a thin plastic, and a cling wrap that we cling the wrap onto our food. Unwrap it, and then we lay the whole skin on the table. No matter how smooth or how beautiful we see it, this time all the skin is no more beautiful. Whoever the person, no matter how beautiful they are, if we imagine that all their skin, we can unwrap, remove them from the flesh and lay it down on the table. And no matter how beautiful they are, this time when the skin is disconnected from the body, then all this skin, all this nature of the body is no more beautiful, no more attractive. In fact, they are foul, they are repulsive. Imagine this skin, we leave it in its natural condition. we don't clean it, we don't do anything about it, then too it becomes smelly, it becomes dirty, full of germs, and give rise to different kinds of diseases. And therefore, the skin is not something for us to be attached to. Not something to hold on, not something for us to see them as beautiful. In fact, they are repulsive, they are ugly, they are unpleasant. Skin, skin, skin. Head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. Head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin. And slowly let go of all the recollection. Let go of all the recollection. Bring the mind back to the present moment, to the body, the rise and fall of the abdomen, to be right here and right now. Then we can slowly open our eyes. All right. So last Friday and Saturday, we are still in the topic of managing this aversion or anger or ill will, to calm the mind down, to reduce that agitation so that we can able to meditate better. Not only better in meditation, but also generally in our lives. So on Saturday, we were talking about when the anger arises, we note them as the way of Dhammanupassana. In the way of Dhammanupassana, we say that we look at them as a subject, then we will see what are the causes that give rise to this anger. And then also we see what causes, no. When the anger is there, then what does the effect after the anger arises? It can affect the body, can affect the mind, can affect various things. Every little thing that, like for example, when your hands are tightened, the shoulders are tightened, or sometimes sweat coming out due to the anger, our job is to see them as they are, not to move them. To see them how the whole nature of the process due to the nature of the anger, then it affects the different parts of the body, and also it affects the mind. Subtle. They are right in front of us, but we just don't see it. Because of that, that's why the non-self aspect is difficult to see. So next time, if you happen to notice this type of things, not only just anger, but it can be included as with greed, or sloth and torpor, or whether restless mind, or whether skeptical doubt, you can note them as is it in this way too. Not only that, you can see them as with the 7 factors of enlightenment. When certain factor of enlightenment become strong, become prominent, then you can see what are the causes that arises, that affects, what are the causes that arises that give rise to this uh, factor of enlightenment, and then with that factor of enlightenment, what does it cause? What does it affect other things? So it's an interesting aspect of vipassana when we begin to understand the different ways of how we can notice objects within this mind and body. Mm. But it takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of training, a lot of mindfulness to notice these type of things. Not to say that all the time you can notice it, but once in a while, perhaps if you try, you can actually able to pay attention to them. So don't underestimate the process when we say not seeing, biting, chewing, tasting, this type of objects, this type of things. We want you to pay attention to, because in the future, all this understanding, all this that you develop, then you begin to see all the linkages here, all the connection, and so on. Yeah. Yeah. Now, that day, also on Friday or Thursday, I mentioned that the arising of this anger is because of unwise attention, right? So unwise attention, if we change it into wise attention, then the anger disappear. In other words, if you are not mindful, then you learn to be more mindful when the anger arises. So you pay attention to the anger. So with that, mindfulness arises, that noting mind arises, then the anger slowly disappear. Whether you see them as from through the way of Chittanupassana, or whether you see them through the way of Dhammanupassana, it doesn't matter, as long as the anger slowly fades away, or quickly fades away. But the thing is that the other aspect is the unwise attention on the repulsive object, or perception of what is repulsive. What is repulsive here? That means that whenever we see certain thing that we dislike, certain thing is disagreeable to you, then your anger arises. It could be a situation, it could be a thing, it could be a person. It could be another yogi, it could be our parents, it could be our children, it could be your traffic jam, it could be anything in your life. Yeah? Sometimes the things that we love and like, also at times the anger also becomes quite strong. So we have to learn to manage them. So in order to manage them, one of the things is that we have to learn to change from what is repulsive to what is beautiful. But here the beautiful part is not for us to attach, but to see the whole, the better part of the person, or the better part of the situation. One of the ways that how we can change it is that day also I talk about metta. When we talk about metta, of course, in the beginning, we begin to develop the metta by radiating the metta to oneself, and slowly we grow it to other beings and all beings. Finally, of course, in the beginning also I mentioned that we don't start off with one of the object is the people that you truly dislike, or the people that is truly terrible. Even you do not know them, but this person can be truly terrible, or the people that you know and you feel disagreeable with them. So whichever the object, this type of object in the beginning, we don't develop metta towards them. But we develop the metta towards them after we have gained sufficient strength in the metta. So have we gained sufficient strength in the metta, then next time we can include the specifically on the person that you truly don't like, truly you hate. And that time, if the metta is strong enough, if the metta is powerful enough, that means you can use the person that you hate, then the metta also can able to grow, because the nature of metta is unconditional love, unconditional loving kindness. Then when it grows, whether the person is your respected one or the person that is your hated one, it does not matter anymore. Right? It does not matter anymore. And therefore, they are the same. They are the same. This is how we develop the metta to such a degree, to such a descent. So, in other words, next time you see the person that is you hate, then you don't have a feeling of anger towards the person, but you have the metta for the person, or if you don't have the metta, you have the equanimity towards the person. As long as you don't have anger, it balances at equanimity, but it don't go down to anger. Once it go down to anger, then it creates all kinds of unwholesome mental state. So this is one way, that we develop the metta, because metta and anger, they are completely different. In other words, you begin to change from a person that is repulsive to you, then it changes to something which is beautiful. Yeah? There are other ways also. There are other ways also. What are the other ways that we can able to overcome our anger and irritation? Here, our anger, irritation, then it can be overcome by also we change from something which is not beautiful, something which is repulsive, to something which is to look at them and more beautiful. Now here, for example, when you're angry with a person, once you're angry with a person, whether the speech or whether the action, our mind is such a way that we narrow down that whole person is terrible. No, we narrow it down already. And we as a person, we always want to keep that horrible things in our heart. 20 years later, you're still achy. You're still achy. I remember kalau see. Still keep it in our heart. Every time we see the person, we still hold that in our. In other words, your mind is always that narrow. You see the person is you see that thing that the person has done to you, or the person has done something disagreeable to you. Yeah. So we always hold on to that small little thing. Yeah. Now, one of the things is that we must learn to open up the mind, widen up the mind to see that that person also do a lot of other wholesome or other beautiful, other wholesome actions, other wholesome actions. Then, when they do other wholesome actions, we have to learn to turn the mind to look at the other person wholesome actions. The other person wholesome action, it could be his action, his physical action, or his speech, or his thoughts. Perhaps sometimes you may come to a monk or a nun, let's say, sometimes her action or his action is a bit rough one. A cholo a bit see. But then that is nature, you know. So when you look at the monk or a nun, then because you yourself got certain standard, you know, in your mind already, and then that monk or that nun does not conform to your level. And then you look at the person, yeah, no good, and so on. Then with that only, we keep it in our heart that, oh, the monk is terrible, the monk is this one. And then our mind sometimes become very narrow. So we must learn again here, widen up the mind a bit. Look at the what are the good nature of the monk or the nun. Perhaps the monk has done a lot of great things. The nun has done a lot of great things. But just because her action may not be so cultured, then we narrow down on that, looking at that small little area. Yeah? Then we hold on to that. Yeah. And sometimes also, like in the interview room also here, not here, not here. Other places, some yogis I mean they have their at certain attitude. Then sometimes I meh meh, yeah, you know. So they hold it in the heart now. Then next time I completely forgotten about it now. Well, next time they come back and tell me, well, I didn't come to your retreat because Bhante, I'm not very happy with you. What? I'm not happy because you scold me during interview. So you hold on to that thing. Yeah. So don't hold on to this area. And a lot of times we do that. So here the teaching is that we learn to look into the person's more wholesome actions, wholesome speech, more kind types of the wholesome action that he has done or she has done, or the wholesome um, speech or he or she has done. Uh, Now sometimes also when we are in the retreat center, we are staying together. And more or less, sometimes, again, sorry to say, usually the ladies have more, men more easy. Another thing is that men is less. Men is less. And men is not so, sorry to say, small things. But sometimes most of the time when we have to deal with certain issues like yogi and yogi bosong with each other, and it's usually most of the time, 90% of the time is on the ladies' side. Huh? So here, I mean, of course, there will be times that you will disagreeable to other yogis. There are some yogis are quite cholo, you know, a bit she or he open the door, close the door, don't care about any other body, the bang, you know, just don't care, don't bother. You know? Then there are some yogis who are more conscientious. Then, for example, there are places that I know of that sometimes the toilet and the meditation hall very near, and then usually they don't flush, but they use a pail of water to scoop it up and then, you know, not to disturb other yogis, because the older type of flushing is quite noisy. The newer type of toilets, the flushing is quite soft. It's quite soft, and it doesn't disturb many people. But a lot of meditation centers, they just, they just don't look into all these small little things. But doesn't matter. But some yogis are more careful, yeah? But some other yogis are not like that. So all these small little things, as I said, they can disturb you. Things like curtain on the fan, on the light, off the light, whether the chair is out, the chair is in, whether you walk a bit slower, walk a bit faster. The small little things, it gets into you. The moment that you out of the retreat, you've forgotten about it already. If somehow you remember, then when you look back, ayo, like that small also, I get angry. But that time when you are there, it's a big thing for you. Yeah. So again here, the same thing. Sometimes we get angry with some yogis. We get angry, we get annoyed with some yogis, and yet, of course, we are in the noble side, we are in the silent retreat, noble silent retreat, and we try not to, go and kacau them, and we try to keep it in our heart. So when we keep it in our heart, now that time, you will see how long your patient boleh tahan. Then here we begin to look into the person's other action also. Then the yogi maybe is trying very hard. The yogi is trying to meditate also, just like me. No point for us to go and hold on any grudges or any irritation to the person and so on. Yeah? So we begin to change our mind in that way. We may not able to not anger all the time, or grudges all the time, or irritation all the time, but we begin to change the perception towards the person rather than looking at all the negative, the other parts that irritate you, but we look at to other parts that the yogi is doing well, the yogi is trying hard, the yogi is this and that. So you must learn to push the mind out from it. If not, the mind always will go back to this narrowness of perception. You want to see only on the very negative part of the person, and we want to believe that the person is overall is like that. So it creates a lot of anger and a lot of irritation in all of us. So too, in this type of way of doing things, if we learn to train this way, and out there also, out there also, we in order to reduce our anger, we learn to look into the good part of the person. This is one way. Another way is to understand that anger is also to understand the causes for the anger to arise. Sometimes the causes may not be just like what we do in Vipassana here, but it's more of a thinking. More of a thinking, or more of a, you rationalize it, what the person is going through. Now, the way that earlier on, when I was talking about the Dhammanupassana, what are the causes for the anger to arise, that one is not through thinking of what are the causes, That one, you actually see the causes. The causes is there, anger is there. Causes there, anger there. Yeah? It's not through, oh, now I'm so angry. Let me think. What caused me anger? That, that one is not Dhammanupassana. Okay, that one is not Dhammanupassana. A lot of time people do like that. A lot of times yogis usually they thought that they meditate, they try to think of the causes. They try to think of the cause of what is going on that mind is so much anger right now. So they try to think and think. The way of Vipassana is not by thinking. The way of Vipassana is to go into the heart, look at the anger. If your mind is sharp enough, then you're able to look at what are the causes that actually give rise to this anger. So, in other words, it's not through thinking, it's through noting or seeing it as they are. But this one, the one that I'm going to talk about is through rationalizing. But this is not during, especially not during actual meditation. This is when you are here, when you are not meditating or when you are outside. Sometimes some yogis will do certain things very odd one, Sometimes they do very odd. certain things. Sometimes our mental judgment is so fast. Uh, uh, like, for example, that you see the other yogis put more cushion on it, then we judge already. Take so many cushion. What for? A small little thing, a cushion also with. I mean, as a yogi, we got nothing else to do. These small little things, more cushion, less cushion, also for us to judge also. And then we get irritated. That also we get irritated. No. But then sometimes if we happen to know the cause, well, I mean, why the person needs to all this cushion, perhaps there could be injury there. Then once the moment that we were able to understand why the person do what he do, then all the anger just gone. We don't think about it anymore. Sometimes we can able to be rationalized a little bit, then well and good. Sometimes perhaps we cannot. Sometimes perhaps we cannot actually know the causes, but we can agak lah, maybe, perhaps next time you see another yogi like in the middle of the day, in the middle of the afternoon, you go down there and rest there. And very fast our irritation, our judgment comes up already. Oh, lazy yogi. You're supposed to meditate, not sleeping. But we never know the person perhaps is sick or having illness, And then so fast we already mentally we start condemn already. But perhaps we do not know what's the causes and we do not want to talk. So what do? We rationalize. We perhaps the person may not be so well. Perhaps they're going through some difficulty, So we let them be. So we don't judge too much. So if not, our mind, we see all these small things that disagreeable to you, then already the mind narrow down and all the grudges and all the resentment and all this one will start popping up. Again here, when we are out there too, when we go back also, we try try to sometimes to rationalize a little bit. Perhaps people go through a lot of suffering that we don't feel it. We don't feel it. So the word is more empathize with them. Empathize with them. So that also is important. Now, what else? What else can reduce our anger? We can reflect on our karma. I'm the owners of my I'm the owner of my own karma. I'm the heir of my own karma. Whatever I do, I will bear the fruit of the karma. So here the karma here will be the anger. Because if this unwholesome mental state arises, then it gives rise to unhappy resultant. Unhappy resultant. So once in a while, we reflect on our karma. The anger arises. We are aware of the anger, but we are not able to note the anger, but we reflect. Oh, my anger is already arising in me. It will not be good because this anger is unwholesome mental state. This unwholesome mental state will give rise to unwholesome effects, unhappy resultant in the future. Some people reflect, which is actually not very good. Some people reflect how because anger arises. Next time I won't be beautiful, I'll be ugly. I cannot, must have no anger. Then they don't get anger, but now they get attached to beauty again. They swing from one extreme to another extreme. That should not be the way of how you do a reflection. That is not the way how you do reflection, especially on karma. You're reflecting on karma, it has to be in a way of equanimity, but it comes with wisdom, not come with your greed, not come with your attachment. uh, like sometimes we do, yeah, people do dana and all that thing. Then they want to be rich, they want to be, they want to this and that. So although it will come, but some people narrow it down specifically for that. So that is not wise, that we narrow down. So next time when we reflect on karma, then we reflect that uh, this karma, this anger, is not just for beautiful, but it gives rise to unpleasant, unwholesome, unpleasant resultant or unpleasant rebirth. Unpleasant rebirth. Now the unpleasant rebirth here, it can be like all the woeful states. Anywhere in the woeful states, it can arise this one. So don't fall into all this thing. Or don't fall into this rebirth. Very hard for you to come out from there. So reflect the karma long enough. We reflect on this karma long enough. Then every time anger arises, we turn the mind towards karma, and then automatically the anger or resentment, the grudges disappear. That is one way. Another way, what we can do. Another way is to reflect on the qualities of the Buddha. No, it's not quality. Stories of the Buddha. No, that's not Buddha. Stories of the Bodhisattva. Story of the Bodhisattva. How he has to go through all kinds of torture and all kinds of things that can give rise to anger, but he resisted himself from getting angry. In other words, this type of stories, you have to go back next time to go and read up about it. Just don't look at Jataka tales, or this Jataka tales as something that you start to ask me, how come the elephant can talk one? How come the cows can talk one? Don't ask me this question. You learn to look into the moral of the story. At one time, it's many years, I think I was in the first Vasa. This I was staying with another monk, Visudachara. And one phone call came. She is a Sunday school teacher. A Sunday school teacher, they give talks on Jataka tales, morality, things like that. Okay. So if one phone call came, I happened to pick it up. So I happened to pick it up, and then he asked the question, or she asked the question. She asked the question, Bhante, which bird, which animal is the smallest animal in the Jataka? Which is the smallest animal in the Jataka, in all the Jataka? Something like that. Yeah, I answered, or I think I know at that time, I think it was just a bird. It was just a bird. And then I asked some kind of all questions about how the bird can talk and this and that. I said, wait. Maybe I give you to another monk, more senior monk. Then how to answer all these things? But people are fascinated with all this stuff. But nevertheless, Okay. Nevertheless, as I said, when we learn the stories of the Jataka, then sometimes it gives a lot of inspiration and a lot of motivation for our practice. And perhaps like dealing with anger. uh, like dealing with anger, there are also a number of Jataka stories are also very helpful. There's one story like, for example, um, in the past, the Bodhisattva was a hermit, a hermit, and the hermit they also preach of kindness and patience and so on. So one day, this hermit was caught by a king. Caught by a king. So the king asked him, "What do you preach?" So I said, "I preach patience." So the king wanted to test him. You preach patience, okay? So the king tortured him. Torture him. What do you preach? I preach patience. Uh, I, I preach patience. I talk about patience. And yet, the hermit, which is the bodhisattva, then he still has no anger, no resentment, no hatred towards the king. I preach patience. So you preach patience, huh? So after that he chopped off the right hand. So what do you preach? I preach patience. Then he chopped off the left hand. What do you preach? I preach patience. After he chopped off the leg, what do you preach? I preach patience. After I chop off another leg, what do you preach? I preach patience. Yeah. Your little cut only, you already little cut, little blood come out only, you'll be tahan already. So something like that. So if you read the whole story, then it'll be very inspiring about how we hold back the hatred. Because a lot of times people harm us, people do bad things to us, hurt us. In many ways, our mind resent a lot of resentment, a lot of hatred, a lot of grudges, and we hold them and we want to revenge and everything. Yeah. Especially y'all watch all this Korean movie lah, Chinese movie lah, everything lah about revenge one lah. Don't follow that. Follow the Jataka tales. Patience. Uh, uh, it's not easy. You try that and see how much patience, how strong your patience or how thin your patience is. And also in other stories in the Jataka, also the Buddha at that time the Bodhisattva was reborn as a royal Naga. More of royal Naga means like he's a deva, but in the forms of sometimes like a snake or something like that. So although this royal Naga and Naga sometimes they have this poison in their body, So there were children caught him, caught it, caught it. So when the children caught it, then the children harm it with like using a stick, using fire, using this one to poke him and everything. If the Naga were to go to just half a bite towards the children, they will all be dead immediately. But the Bodhisattva hold back on all this resentment, all this difficulty, and bear up with all the difficulty they have to go through. So all these things, if you look into the Jataka tales and how the Buddha go through all these things, then they have to bear up with all the difficulty. The Bodhisattva. Not only the Bodhisattva, but during the time of the Buddha also, the Buddha has to go through a lot of difficulty. But of course, as the Buddha, the anger already eradicated already. So it's okay, but yes, still have to bear up in the way that there are unpleasant people that condemn him and so on. Uh, being a monk, you are sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes even if you don't do things, people will accuse you, accuse you of making somebody else pregnant, like the Buddha. Like the Buddha. Uh, so all these type of things has happened. Mm. So when we recall this type of stories, this type of teachings, if we can able to recall back, then at times it's going to help us to reduce the anger. At least we don't hold a lot of grudges in us. At least when we have certain example, we try to follow. We try to follow as best as we can. Uh, even even you can follow a partial of it, then you're already able to reduce the anger. It's not like completely zero anger, but you can able to reduce the anger. If you're able to reduce it, that means more or less you can able to manage it. And that is great. Because some of us, our anger is so spiteful. Anything bosong, wow, the mouth is so bad, so horrible. It may not come in as harsh words, It may not come in at all the foul words, but it can come in all the shouting and everything. So some of things are this one. Nowadays, especially like sometimes we see in the uh, Facebook or anything, people like as if like everything is their privilege. Sometimes they shouted at all the waiter, waitresses, they shouted in the restaurant as if like they are entitled to everything, this type of people. So don't fall into this type of trap. You fall into this type of trap is your own fault, actually, finally. Whatever fault of other people, if you fall into the anger, then you will bear up with the karma. Yeah? No matter what are the faults of other people. Yeah? But sometimes people will say that if you don't get angry, you cannot justify the whole situation. You cannot justify the whole thing. Or sometimes if you don't get angry, the the person 就来就 ubin, more face. You cannot give them face. You know, sometimes with this type of attitude, like in the office, that we this one, or inside the family members or whatever group that you are in, and this time is not very good. So a lot of times you say that we need to have that fierceness and so on, in order for us to able to stand in the corporate world, perhaps. But the thing is that a lot of us used unwholesome mental states to overcome those things, because that is the only way we know. That is the only way we know. Other ways, we don't really know, or we don't exercise it. One of the things, like when we are out there, it's not all the time you can do metta, metta, metta to everybody. Not all the time. The form of Brahma Viharas is for us to become flexible. Flexible. Supposing you are in an office or you are in a situation where people are horrible and toxic. They're horrible or toxic. And maybe because you are there for long term, for a long time, you also become toxic also to others also, But you don't realize it, you think you're so pure, But we are there. And when you are there, you mix up with these people, finally we are toxic. But if somehow, if you can able to learn the Dhamma, we come out from that, we come out from it, not physically, but mentally we come out from it because we still need to work. We still need to cari makan. We cannot totally come out from the whole working life. We still need the money and so on. But we can change how we deal with people. And the way, one of the ways is to use the four Brahma Vihara. One of the things that we don't really, most of the time we don't really use is this equanimity. Equanimity in our daily life. Yeah. Now, equanimity here, it does not mean that we don't care, don't bother, CC lah, you don't care, don't bother. The near enemy of equanimity is like you are indifferent. You don't care about whether this is a fault or whether this is a virtue or whether this is wholesome or unwholesome. You don't care. That is not equanimity. That is dullness or ignorance of the mind. Equanimity, when it comes in with understanding and it comes in with wisdom. And yet your mind is neither angry or neither attached, neither happy, neither unhappy. You're not attachment due to greed, or you don't have those resentment, but you are right in the middle where the mind is able to come with understanding and wisdom. Yeah? Take for example, again, like when you are out there, you're kind of like in a situation where people can be very difficult. Yeah? People can be difficult. People, because sometimes there are certain people who think that you are soft because of your nature. Then people may want to, take advantage of you, use you like a carpet or floor mat. Yeah. Then they want to harm you and they want to give problems to you. And somehow this type of people, they want to do that. And a lot of times is that we don't know the Dhamma, we want to revenge back, we want to get even and so on. Yeah. But in the way of equanimity, we still get even, but without anger. But with understanding. You can do it with understanding, we do it with this one. Yeah, you're going to meet with this type of people one time or another in our lives. Whether we are a monk or a nun, or whether you're working, or whether you're a yogi the whole life or so. You still meet with this type of people. Yeah? So what do? We learn to don't hold grudges towards the person. We reduce our grudges towards the person. Sometimes we reflect that the person has to bear up with their own karma, right? But the person is keep on affecting you with all kinds of harsh words, and sometimes all kinds of, they type up a lot of bad things and so on, just to spite you and so on. So you feel that it needs to be stopped. You feel that it needs to be stopped. Again, here, whatever that you're going to do, you do it without anger. You do it with more reason and more rationality. Perhaps you need to feedback. Whether you're going to feedback to your superiors, or whether you're going to feedback to your colleagues, or whether you're going to feedback to some family members, or whether you're going to feedback to whatever. But you do it without anger. You do it without resentment. You do it with more rationality, more understanding. It's going to be a tough time. It's going to be a hard climb. Sometimes nowadays the feedback will not be, writing an email, it's just on social media, you know, on Twitter or whatever it goes on. But can you do it with rationality, and can you do it without anger? That is again up to you already. If you can do that, that means we are doing it with more understanding, without holding any grudges, but we can still get the things done. It's a tough call. It's not easy, but it's something in equanimity, is something like that. Yeah? Equanimity also something like, for example, you are in a situation like you are in a bad traffic jam, or you're in a bad situation that that's hopeless. You cannot go anywhere for hours. Then that time, a lot of times we fall into a lot of anger. Well, we condemn the government, we condemn the road, we condemn everybody except yourself. We condemn everybody, everything. So here again, equanimity comes in. The equanimity comes in like, hey, there's no need for me to condemn anything. Just sit there, be patient. Just sit there, be patient, and then be mindful of whatever that you are going to do. So, in other words, you let go of all the mind about all. I mean, begin to let go of all the situation that's so affecting you. You're still in that situation, but you change your mind into a more equanimous type of this one. Yeah? Uh, In other situation, if it's the things are getting better, perhaps, then we can let go of equanimity. Then we go back to like metta or compassion or so on. We can always change. Not all the time metta. It doesn't work all the time. Unless your metta is so powerful, if metta is so powerful, you wouldn't work in the office already. Your metta is so powerful, you join the yogi already, meditation already. Yeah. What else? Now, in the Brahma Vihara also, last week also I mentioned that all these Brahma Vihara, they are also to overcome some form of dosa-rooted type of, whether it's anger or sadness or jealousy or resentment, and or excessive attachment or excessive fame. It overcomes a lot of all these type of things. Since we are talking about anger area, therefore we also need to touch upon a little bit on sadness, a little bit on jealousy also. Now here, the compassion, the nature of compassion is that when we're able to arouse the compassion, then the compassion is to wish others to be free from whatever suffering that they are going through right now. Whatever suffering, whether seen or unseen suffering. Surely all of us are one way or another the suffering that we go through. So we train the mind. We train the mind to develop the mind to able to overcome those type of, to wish that others to be free from those type of suffering. But the thing is that now, because it's connected to suffering, many of us, when we see suffering only, then the bak yu lao cry already. Like for example, you see in the movie, you see the person cry inside the movie, you also cry with them. And that is not compassion. When you see a dog died, let's say it's a real one, it's right in front of you. Oh, the dog was knocked by a car and then it died there and then. Then you also cry. That is not compassion at this point. That is called the near enemy of compassion. So if you begin to fall into that trap, if you fall into that trap, that means the mind is already go into the dosa rooted already. Uh, uh, so sometimes, like for example, when y'all come into the interview room and y'all start crying, my heart does not move on and all. As much I can just offer you a tissue only. Other than that, my heart don't move. Just because you cry. Because once in a blue moon, there are yogis like that. Every time I come in, they cry, cry, cry. Cry for what? Yeah. The compassion is not the compassion is not in that way. The compassion is whether through action or through speech, you help the person to overcome their suffering, or towards the mind also. You wish them to overcome their suffering, whether it is through actions or through speech or through mental development. Uh, that is to overcome suffering, not fall into crying and sadness and sympathy and despair and no hope and this type of things. That is not compassion. Uh, uh, so we fall into these type of things, then of course, the more the dosa rooted become even stronger. Uh, a lot of times, the the mind is that whenever this type of situation is difficult only, then our tears all come out already. Yeah. With tears all come out, well, it shows that in a way the mind is weak. Yeah. In terms of dosa root, and you keep on crying, 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 crying one, it shows that the mind is weak. There's a lot of training to go through, lot of development to go through. Yeah. Just because the male don't cry so much doesn't mean the mind is strong enough. But the mind is sometimes they just they grit their teeth, which is also another form of anger. Internal, they're trying to hold back, or sometimes their pride and so on. But for more ladies, then a lot of fall into a lot of tears. So with this type of tears, to me, the way I look at it, as I said, that this one, the mind is still a lot of weakness. There's still a lot of development to go through. If you have to train yourself, don't fall into all these type of things. Whatever the suffering that you go through, or whatever you see the suffering, whatever that's happening is inside there. Whether you see a movie or whatever that going through right in front of you. So if you see this type of situation, let's say a dog being knocked by a car and so on. At that time, the dog already died, let's say. If the dog died, you cannot do anything else. Then you cry. If you cry, you fall into dosa root. This time again, you bring the mind into equanimity. You bring the mind into equanimity, into balance. In the balance that may, wherever due to our karma and due to its karma, perhaps unfortunately, he get knocked by the car. Yeah. And we wish the dog may be able to reborn in the better planes of existence. So we bring ourselves to equanimity rather than fall into the trap of crying again. So again here, this is one thing. But if the dog didn't die, then it's another story. If you're in that position that you can able to help, let's say you can able to help bring him to a vet or something like that, and then perhaps the dogs get better, then that is an act of compassion. Okay, it's an act of compassion. Then, for example, or you are driving, let's say, the dog is not on the other side of the road, but your car is passing through. You cannot like stop and go down and so on, because it could be on the highway, but you see it. You see it. So when you see it at that time, so what do? Then at that time, if the dog is still alive, then we wish the dog, may you get better soon. May you be healed from all your suffering. May you be free from whatever suffering that you go through. Then that time, as an act of, that time is a mental type of compassion, not a physical type of compassion anymore. Uh, so sometimes situation is different. With all this type of situation, we help to reduce our anger a little bit by little bit, little bit by little bit. Instead of fall into all kinds of sadness, we don't we fall into compassion, proper compassion. Uh, if it's in equanimity, sorry, if it's the next one is the mudita. Mudita here is the opposite of jealousy. Mudita here means you are happy. You're happy for other people's success or your own success or your own gains. Some people, when other people gain something, your eyes very green one, be song one. Yeah. When you live in a materialistic world, when people more richer than you, more good, better looking at you, more whatever qualities you think that they are better than you, instead of being happy for them, we are being jealous of them. Yeah, we become very jealous of them. So the jealousy here, that is something that we have to overcome. Here is that we begin to look into something that they have done well, or you yourself done well, then you recall it, then you wish them that for whatever their gains or whatever their achievements, may all these things bring them happiness. Uh, bring them happiness. Very difficult like that. You wish your enemy and see bring them happiness and see can or not. Somebody you don't like one that is again like Brahma Vihara is unconditional. So until you can able to develop until somebody that you really don't like, may you be happy whatever that you have gained. Uh, it's not it's not impossible. It is possible. It's only need training on it. It's just that we don't have enough training on it. So it's possible. Uh, the thing is that about this mudita, if you're not careful, then it will turn into the worldly joy type of things. For example, you kena lottery lah. Let's say, then I go and near you lah. Wow, you happy so good nah, but you got ulterior motive on I got ulterior motive that I want something from you because you have something. Although I appreciate your thing, but I have some greed at the end of in my heart. You know what I mean? It looks like mudita, but it's not mudita. Whereas mudita, there's no ulterior motive at all. Mudita, altruistic joy, it has a pure wish that the person is happiness without you gaining something. Whereas in the world out there where we live in, when somebody happy with you, you're already like, yeah, bro. you know, we already have that, sometimes some people have that ulterior motive of something they want already. Yeah? So that looks like mudita, but this is not mudita. This is called the near enemy of mudita. So whenever you have that ulterior motives or you have some worldly intentions, just because it's the nature of happiness, then you just have to be you have to be careful, either for others or in your own self also. Yeah? Uh, because you want to gain something from it, perhaps. Uh, So this one, it helps us to reduce a lot of not just our anger, but connected to dosa rooted. Yeah? So tomorrow we'll look into it a little bit more. Wait to tomorrow. Yeah, I'll see lah. What subject? Okay, we'll stop here for tonight. Idang may bawanang nibbana sa pachayo hotu. May my mental cultivation be a condition for the realization of nibbana. Imang no punya bagang sabba satanang dema. We share these merits with our departed ones, with all beings and all the devas. Sape satta sukhi hontu anumodantu. May all beings be happy. May they rejoice in these merits. Sadhu, sadhu.